in the PDF. Now, I've only learned this trick over the last 2 months, so I'm actually still really, really excited about it. But, like, honestly, if I'd known this before I started my PhD, I would have been done just so much faster. Now, would I have to have read this stuff? Of course! Software can't substitute me thinking, but it exponentially reduces the time it takes me to find the things that are relevant for me. There are things that it can do, there are things that it cannot. But this software, which is at the very far end of this whole system that I use, would be completely useless if I didn't have a systematic way if I hadn't been rigorous about acquiring electronic versions of things that I was wanting to work with, if I didn't file it in a systematic way, if I didn't all have it in one folder, and if it wasn't being indexed by this software. What I can do, you can see that I've chosen, it's indexed the academic library, but I could ask it to look for my academic notes. So if I wanted to look through the things that I've already written notes about, I can ask it to search for that. You'll find in your academic career that you'll have people coming up to you and say, "Oh, Dr. Joel, I remember you talking about this such and such a thing in that book of you." You know, and I kind of think, "Man, did I say that? Man, I had no idea that I said something like that." So, and you know, when you are going to conferences more and more, and you're asked to write papers more and more, you know, it's probably wise for you to remind yourself about what you have already written before you start to read new stuff. So, I know it's very uncool to be enthusiastic, especially in universities, but these have been the building blocks that I have used to go about my job as an academic in a university setting, which, like Payap, is not resource rich. Some of the software I had to pay. I think this was like $100 to pay for Foxtrot Pro. There is a free version. Copernic Desktop Search has a free version, but I think it's only for Windows. So yeah, I think I'm going to pause there and ask if anyone's got clarifying questions that they would like to ask.
Back to Wen's question. If you're reading one reference, do you make more than one notes?
No, only one. I try and, because otherwise I get confused. Yeah. Now, if you were to ask me, have I ever done that by accident? Yes, I have. Do I ever plan to do that? No, I don't. So it's often the case that, and again, I try to do as many things in Adobe as I can. Try and work. It's like going back to the old thing. Trying to interact with the old book as much as I can, so that when I want to find out what was relevant, I can just rip through. And so if you look at that, you'll see in the margins that I've made notes, and I've got lines, and I've written them in pencil, not pen. And so that's what I used to do. And then I got that book and I read that book before I was in the habit of scanning the entire book. I used to read it, write notes, and then scan only the pages that I had stuff on. Now I do the whole thing. Now I hardly ever buy books, but when I do buy the book, I scan the whole thing, and then what I do is I run through and I do keyword searches. This is the thing that I'm really interested in, and I find where the clusters are. I put it into my academic library, the scan version. I put it into the academic library, and then I go back here and I do this. I go indexing and I manage indexes, and I go to the library and I update the index. and then I go to the PDF and I do keyword searches. Okay, I'm hoping that he has a few things on Southeast Asia. I'm interested in the Naqshbandi. I'm interested in the specific Sufi orders. What has he got on Sufi orders? Now I might go and I might highlight those things. You will see here on this page that I have got special colours for special words. Okay? Now that is not difficult to do. What you do is you go here, you go to advanced find and search, and you say every time there is the word cat, you replace it and you say put highlighting, and you just choose a colour. There are programs that work with Adobe Acrobat for Windows, and it's a plugin and it will automatically put highlights on specific words. But I go through, I scan it, I will do keyword searches, and if there's things that are of interest, I will highlight them. Or I will go, eventually I will put it into the index, and then in the future when I am looking for material, so it may be on ethnic identity and language use, it may be on dialects and subnational identities. And so in order for you to, you talked about coding, you know, you've got your stash of empirical data. There's no point in you coding without having data. But you have to have enough electronic resources relevant to your specific research for you to be able to do this stuff, okay? Now, I've got an enormous stash of stuff that I'm happy to help, I've given that to you already, but in a sense, your task is that you have to make it your own. And so you can delete all the stuff about land rights for gay whales in South Thailand, because I'm not sure whether that's going to be relevant for you in Balochistan, you know, or faith-based approaches to land rights for gay whales. So get rid of that stuff, it's not relevant. But what you need to do is you need to be getting your own virtual library together. And there are lots of ways of you doing that, and I've only introduced some of them. And then having done that, you need to make sure that they're all filed. There are some people in a library and they've got all of their books in alphabetical order. You know, I prefer to put my books on my shelf that are relevant. You know, South Thailand, Sufism, Islam, interreligious contact and conflict, and linguistic anthropology. And then you've got to do to your PDFs what you used to do to your books. You need to mark them in a systematic way that hopefully doesn't destroy them. So, you know, I prefer to mark in the margins so that I can scan the book. Anyway, we're kind of running out of time. What are some other questions and comments?
Chris, could you just show us how you organize your field notes and your field note library?
Yeah, I can. Would you like me to do that now?
Yeah, please.
Okay, sure. Okay. I didn't actually prepare that, but I'll just give you a brief introduction. Okay. Let me just give me a minute. Okay, just let me get out of this. Don't save. Don't save. Don't save. Don't save. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Don't save.
Was that Acrobat or Word where you were doing that highlighting?
Okay. What is okay? There are some plugins for Adobe Acrobat Pro that will do the same thing. They will automatically highlight keywords, which is a very powerful function. And so when I'm working with old historical material, because I haven't got that capacity in the Mac version of Adobe Professional Pro, I have to export the whole thing as a Word document, and then I go in and I choose a highlight color, and I say Okay, yellow. Okay, replace every instance of the word Malayu to Malayu but with a highlight. And so I'll do that. And then, okay, what's the next word I need? I change the highlight colour and I say change that word, every occurrence of that word highlighted. Or I could underline and I can do anything I like. So that means I can choose a view, 2 pages on one screen, and I can go through and see what are the most relevant pages for me to read. And when I put this eventually in the indexing program, then it's just a bit easier for me to find out. But everything is changing because you see, with this program, if I do my trawling through an indexing program, the relevant words are highlighted in the program. And again, this is going to, things are changing the whole time. Okay, so what I do, Connie, oh, I didn't bring, oh, here we go. Here you go, catch this. Whoop. Okay, that is my field notes, okay? So what I do is, I do this. And I'm not going to be able to show you all of this because I haven't kind of got it all very well organised. So I go, hold on. Okay, Sufism. Okay, so this is my project. Okay, so I've got a number of primary sources. Okay, so the project that I'm doing, Connie, is highly visual. If I've sent an email to you in the past, you'll see that I've got a website with all my ethnographic photos. So I've got a number of primary documents, and these include fieldwork scans. So here are some lineages. These are some, Zubair will recognise some of this. This is a very, very strange local version of the Qadriya and Naqshbandiya. It's kind of a, they don't even know the name Naqshbandi, they call it Nur Zabadi. I mean, it's Naqshbandi. I mean, if you read the wirid, all of you read the Santilah and the wirid, and you look at the prayers and the istifah and the salawat and the tahleel, they're all Naqshbandi, with some Qadriya and some Ahmadiyya Idrisiya kind of influence. But these guys, they call it Nur Zabadi. Yeah? So what I do is I name everything following the system where I've got the year, the month, and the relevant information. And so I say 2014 to February 21, because if I do that, then I can organise things alphabetically. I will have, again, the same prefix with the year. Now 4 April 24 means not the 4th of April, but it's April. But if I put 4 before April, it's going to order nicely alphabetically. If I don't have the 4, then I'm going to have April at the beginning of the year, and then after that it's, I want to have January at the beginning of the year. So again, the file names, I try and keep systematic file names so that just as I have notes at the beginning of an academic note, I will have a fieldwork scan. In other words, this is a document that I have taken a photo of in the field, and it's a primary document. So this is So what I sent to you was my fieldwork notes. And what I do is I take notes in that notebook, and then the first thing I do is I get back and I scan that. And I again, you'll see that the scans are dated, so they are fieldwork notes, the year, the month, the date. Now again, these are all OCR'd, so that I can go through and I can annotate them. I can write little notes. Now, you can imagine, if you could throw the book back to me. Awesome. Okay, you can imagine how difficult it would be for me to be in the back of Beyond in some kind of sleeping on some floor of some mosque in the back of Beyond in South Thailand, and for me to be thinking now, back home in my office, I've got that notebook that I did in 2011, I think it was October 2011, 2012, and I wrote the name of that guy, and I'm just in the next village and I'd really like to see him. So I scan all of my notebooks and I have them on my computer. And what I do here is now I'm sorry, I'm all a bit flustered with what did I do with it? Audios. Okay, so all of these are my interviews, and they are in, again, Fieldwork MP3. And so all of these interviews are organised, Fieldwork, MP3, 2012, the month, the date, the place. So if I need to find, if I need to search, so if I need to search for a specific place, Fieldwork site, if I need to find out what year, if I need to say, okay, I was in that village, I think it was 2011, I was in that village. So I go and I just search, I search for an MP3, 2011, in that place. So again, I'm using all the metadata. So if I have as much information, if I have everything in one folder, and if I emphasize using the metadata, and if I maximize the capabilities of my operating system, it's a really dumbed down thing. I could pull things into a program, but I kind of think it's, and there is more than one way to do it, but so that's what I do with my field notes, that's what I